The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
And hello and welcome to the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Darren Jaime, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our community as well as around the world. First up, we'll break down the latest headlines in local, national, and international news. And then next, in a country that is riveted by violence, we'll find out steps Bronx officials are taking towards gun control. After that, we'll hear what one local official is doing to improve our community. And we'll learn about a new study showing the link between racial discrimination and personal health. And today is Kick Butts Day. And we'll sit down with an organization working towards a smoke-free Bronx. And finally, we'll be joined by a group that is battling a corporation and fighting for Bronxites. So stay tuned because all this and much more is heading your way, because right now, we're officially open. And hello, Bronxites. I'm your host, Darren Jaime. Today is Wednesday, March 20th, 2013. Of course, you're watching Open, the only live and interactive program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV set. We encourage you to stay connected to us to all of our social media sites. And so we tell you to tweet us at BronxNet TV. And of course, you can like us on Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. Well, kicking things off with national news, in Washington, Hillary Clinton made her first public announcement on Tuesday since stepping down from her position as Secretary of State. While Clinton has been a long-time supporter of the LGBT community, for the first time she announced her support for gay marriage.
A little over a year ago in Geneva, I told the nations of the world that gay rights are human rights, and human rights are gay rights, and that the United States would be a leader in defending those rights. Now, there were some countries that did not want to hear that, but I believe America is at its best when we champion the freedom and dignity of every human being. That's who we are. It's in our DNA. Of state.
Politics and possibly the start to a presidential campaign in the year 2016. And on the international front, Tuesday marked the eve of the 10th anniversary of the U.S. war in Iraq, which brought a wave of bombings, leaving over 50 dead and 200 injured. The attacks were mostly car bombs targeted at Shiite areas in the Iraqi capital, taking place over the span of about 2 hours. No official commemoration took place, but the anniversary raised concerns about the validity of the war. And in New York City, the class action lawsuit over the NYPD stop and frisk policy kicked off in court this week. The lawsuit is based on a Bronx medical student who says he was stopped twice without a valid reason. While many claim this policy targets blacks and Hispanics at a disproportionate rate, New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg and Police Commissioner Ray Kelly believe the policy has brought crime in New York City to an all-time low. And those are the headlines. We'll have to take a quick break, but coming up, we'll hear about a plan to make our borough and our country a little safer. But first, Bronx students came together to showcase projects they've been working on in the STEM fields. Our Bronx reporter, Peace Asagwan, has the story.
Students from various high schools throughout the Bronx have gathered here today to share their ideas on how to better improve our future. Here at Lehman College's brand new science building, we are celebrating the academic achievements of these Bronx high school students.
I am really excited. This is like the best experience ever one can receive. And I'm really excited that I'm able to express my views and people take interest in them.
It's very exciting because I feel like I'm actively participating in my community and making a difference, letting people know what they can do and how much research they can do on their own time.
Most people with breast cancer, they opt for chemotherapy, and chemotherapy has a lot of side effects, but by using Aptamers, it's less dangerous in comparison to chemotherapy.
Along with community praise, our bright young students are also making their families incredibly proud of their accomplishments.
Hoy día ha sido un día especial para nosotros ver que nuestra hija está en un nivel que nunca lo imaginamos y que ella estaba juntos con el presidente del borough. Él se sorprendió con nosotros y dijo que estamos haciendo un trabajo excelente con ella y con nuestros hijos.
Bronxboro President Ruben Diaz Jr. and Assemblyman Mark Jonai stopped by the fair to support our growing young minds.
I'm so proud of the work that was done here, and I wish that many more people were able to get the opportunity that I had here today to see that in the Bronx we have wonderful, wonderful scholars, wonderful scientists that are really going to go and take over the planet in the future.
This is remarkable. I think that the students that are here today are all winners. They've certainly shown what the Bronx can really come up with when just given the environment where they can express themselves.
As you've seen here today, one student's idea can branch into a future. I am Peace Isagon reporting for Open.
And thank you, Peace. We're back here on Open. Darren Jaime here with you. And in an effort now to make the Bronx and our country safer, Bronxboro President Ruben Diaz Jr. has proposed a gun crime registry. Here now to share more about this and the steps she has taken to continue to improve our borough is now Deputy Borough President Aurelia Green. And we welcome you now to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here this morning.
Good to have you. Good to have you. So in the Borough President's State of the Borough address, he addressed the whole issue of gun control and
Yes.
the need for us in New York City, and not just in New York City, but more particularly the borough of the Bronx, to address the issue of gun control. Your thoughts on the Borough President's stance and what this actually will do for Bronxites?
I think it's a great stance. I think it's a great position to take. We register sex offenders. Why not register gun owners? And especially the fact that the citizenry can actually get the information right off the internet. They don't have to go through hiring an attorney to find out, all of that. It opens the door for us to really put a curb on the illicit use of guns.
When you look at the gun control rate and we see how guns have played such a prevalent role in crime, particularly here in our borough, knowing the amount of people that are shot and stuff like that, are we optimistic that this could actually occur, given the fact that, many people say this is an uphill battle?
Oh, yes. It most definitely is. You've got so much lobbying going on. They're having problems in Washington trying to pass some legislation. So, of course, we're going to have it here. But the thing is that it's vitally needed, and the information about it needs to get out to the general public so that they can hold their elected officials responsible for getting this legislation done.
When we looked at the State of Borough address, one of the things that came out of it is many people walked away saying the Bronx is definitely booming. We've heard the old adage before that it was burning, but we could throw that away, say that it's booming. Looking at some of the development that's going on and some of the businesses that are going on, and being a person that's been around on the political front for a while, obviously you have to be pleased with what you're seeing.
Absolutely. I'm a born and bred Bronxite. And I am seeing the Bronx come back to the way that I once knew it to be. It's so wonderful when we see that almost $1.5 billion have been invested in the borough last year. And since we took office in 2009, we have seen $4.5 billion come into the borough in construction, jobs. It's happened with housing. It's happened with businesses. And so we do see ourselves on the upward climb.
When you talk about the unemployment rate, obviously the borough of the Bronx is one of those places that has seen the highest unemployment rate in the city. Are you satisfied yet with the fact that there is progress being made, and even though those numbers still continue to be low?
I'm happy to know that there's an increase in employment, but I'm not satisfied with our numbers still. We still need more. and that's what we're working toward. You know, the borough president sponsored an economic summit the first year that we came into office, and I must say that really started the ball rolling, and we're very proud of it.
Give us a little bit about the borough as you see it right now from your perspective. How do you see the borough of the Bronx, given the fact that, you know, now we're seeing this economic turn, we're seeing businesses come in, we're seeing things come in, but how do you see it?
I see hope here. I see hope because we have a borough that is alive once again. We're no longer dead. We're no longer walking and living in fear, but we are alive again, and we are striving to get ourselves even more situated, more substantially situated, I should say. The borough is really thriving, and I believe that just about every person who lives here recognizes that. We get comments all the time about how happy people are about the borough.
When you look at your career, 27 years in the state assembly, now serving as, you know, deputy borough president, obviously a lot of tenure out there on the political front. What are you most proud of about your political career in terms of making a deposit into the life of the Bronx?
I believe that my most valued position would be the fact that I was an inspiration for so many people, and I helped them to not lose hope on our borough and on the state itself. I was very, very instrumental in passing some legislation that was significant, such as the bicycle helmet law for the children. I was the first woman to chair the Banks Committee, and the first woman, not the first woman, but the first African American to be the Speaker pro tem. And so I made some significant strides while I was in Albany, and I loved it. I loved what I did, and it was good to be able to make such a difference in our borough and in our state.
Is there a huge difference between what you're doing here in the borough versus what was going on up in Albany? Is it huge?
Oh, yes. Yes, it's a whole different situation. First of all, I'm no longer a lawmaker, so that's what's different about it. While I was there, of course, I had to always research. I think the one similarity is that I'm out in the community. I'm out in the entire borough as opposed to my district. And so that's the big difference.
Well, we know you got some events coming up. Let's talk about something that's going on. I know April 6th is a big event for you guys too as well, huh?
Yes, yes. We have the Bronx Health and Wellness Summit that's going to be held on Saturday, April 6th. It's going to be held at Fordham University's Rose Hill campus. And it's going to be from 8 till 5. I have the flyer right here. And we are so proud. We have Dr. Max Gomez, who is the CBS medical reporter. I believe Max Gomez was the first medical reporter that we've ever had, and he's going to be at the summit on that Saturday. So we look forward to it.
We want you to come on out on April the 6th. I want to let you know for that particular event, the admission is free, and all you got to do is just show up and be a part and find out exactly what
and
is
a healthy breakfast and lunch will be served.
A healthy one.
A healthy one.
Emphasis on healthy. I know, because we eat a lot of unhealthy stuff. Well, what else do you have coming up down the pike? Do you have anything else?
Well, we have Bronx Week.
That's
it's
right.
going to be bigger this year. It's going to run from May 9th to May 19th. And we look forward to that. We're excited about it. And of course, next year we have the 100th anniversary of the borough. So, you know, we're getting ready for that as well. It's really exciting times for us.
Well, certainly we're glad to have you come by and share with us here on Open, and it's always a pleasure to have you. Come on back and share again.
I will be more than happy to.
All right.
Okay.
Deputy Borough President Aurelia Green, she's going to stay here while we take this quick break, and we are going to do that. Take a break. And coming up after the break, we're going to find out how you can obtain funding for your community-based organization. Don't change the channel. We got some information coming to you right after this.
Cook foods to the right temperature using a food thermometer. 3,000 Americans will die from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Take my hand and start a brand new day. And together as one we'll start to see some change.
Underneath everything we are, underneath everything we do, we are all people, connected, interdependent, united. And when we reach out a hand to one, we can influence the condition of all. That's what it means to live united.
Darren Hyman coming back at you. Remember, you're watching Open, a live and interactive talk show. Of course, we encourage you to join in on the conversation by following our social media pages on Twitter. You can go to BronxNet TV, and we're going to Facebook, and there you can find Open BronxNet Television. Community-based organizations currently have the opportunity to apply for funding for the fiscal year of 2014. Councilman Fernando Cabrera is now on the phone to help us to understand the importance of organizations receiving funding and, more importantly, what you can do to apply. And Councilman Cabrera, good to have you on the phone.
Oh, it's good to hear you again.
Good to hear you too. You know, as we said, the deadline is looming quickly for these community-based organizations. And first of all, why don't we explain to people what this is all about?
Well, there are two types of funding under discretionary funding. Actually, there's discretionary and capital funding. One is expense funding, which refers to money used for programs. And then there is capital funding, which refers to money spent on purchases or improving fixed access, such as, fixing windows in a school or building a building. And usually those go for public properties, such as parks, public schools. And it's important for those who have children in school, those who care about the park, to advocate for those. But a lot of people apply for discretionary funding, which is usually for programs. After-school programs is one of my favorite. For example, through my office, we fund Power Play, which is girls basketball, PLL. We have Kiss Bay Boys Club, which is another youth program, and senior programs as well. So this is a great opportunity for programs to be able to get that extra cash that they need. One thing to keep in mind, Darren, which is very important, that this is reimbursable money. So they expect the nonprofits to put forth their monies first, and then they get reimbursed when it comes to discretionary funding.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people think that sometimes when you hear about free funding, it's like we just give you the money and you just do what you have to do. But an understanding has to be made that, yes, you are asking people to put those funds out first, and then they're reimbursed. Given the fact of the economic downturn and the struggles that many community-based organizations have had through budget cuts and things like this, do you feel like this is, quote unquote, that shot in the arm that they can need to continue?
Definitely, Darren. I know there's some programs that couldn't run unless we have this type of funding. This is why we fight so hard for it, because it's target funding. Right now at the state level, we're not getting any real funding through the senators and assembly member, and so we're left really with city council funding to be able to fill the gap that is missing often in a lot of these programs.
Now, as far as people are concerned, what do they have to do in order to reach out to you in terms of applying? I guess somebody's watching right now and saying, am I eligible? Who exactly is eligible for these funds?
Well, basically, they need a 501c3. They need a federal employee identification number. And then they can apply at council.gov.nyc. That's council.gov.nyc. Or they can just Google it. And they could easily find it. Once they get to the council website, at the bottom left-hand side, they will find the word budget. They can click that, and they will find all the information. It's rather simple application there, and it's only about 4 pages. It doesn't ask a whole lot of questions. These programs will be vetted later on, but the application is rather simple. It's about 100 pages long. So, but the discretionary one is a rather simple one.
The other question I have is, I guess the whole borough of the Bronx watches this television show, and so somebody might ask, if I'm not in your councilmatic district, I'm not eligible to apply?
Actually, everyone is eligible to apply and to ask funding from any council member, but usually we give in our councilmatic district, but they could look up, once they're in the council website, they could look up to see who their council member is, and also to request a meeting. I think it's very important for council members to be able to sit down with the groups and to be able to see their vision, what's the strategy that they're bringing forth in the community, and what kind of an impact they can make. So because, we get about 200, 300 applications, and so there's only so many groups that we can help. But once we get to hear the strategy, we often know which groups we need to fund.
Now, in terms of the deadline, let's go over the deadline for people to be able to apply.
The deadline is March the 29th, and it's a very specific deadline. On the next day, no applications will be accepted. So they need to understand that there's nothing that the councilman will be able to do, because this is going straight to the council. It's not going straight to our office. Later on, they're going to give us a list of all the groups that have applied. And then by June, when the budget comes, we are told how much we're going to get each individual member, and then we get to decide. So sometime in June is when we really get to know who are the groups that are going to get funding.
So you got March is the time for application. June is the time that you find out. We're encouraging community-based organizations and those people with 501c3s to get in touch. Now, Councilman Cabrera, one more time for those who are watching, let's give them the website for them to be able to go to.
Sure, that's council.gov.nyc.
council.gov.nyc, and there you go. If you're interested, contact the office for inquiries. We're talking about the discretionary funding for the 2014 budget year, and the councilman is asking all interested persons to make sure that you get in before the deadline takes place. Now, Councilman, other than that, what have you got going on in your area?
Oh, we're so excited about the Kingsbridge Armory. We're working on that. We'd love to come to the show, talk about it sometime later. But we have police cameras that are hooked up in one police plaza. And I have to tell you, crime has drastically gone down. So I'm very encouraged about that. We have a lot of after-school programs now. Many of our young people now could literally go to an after-school program for free, and we're going to continue to fight for that as well. We're working on legislation. I got a new legislation coming up very soon that is going to be able to allow constituents to go online and be able to identify which areas are crime taking place, so we could concentrate all of our efforts in those specific areas. I'm a firm believer in transparency, and this is going to give an extra tool to our people to move forward.
Well, I want to thank you for calling in and sharing with us and giving us this information in regards to what is going on in regards to the community-based organizations and the discretionary funding. And, of course, we will continue to update people with what's going on with you. And, of course, if we want to reach you, what's the number to your office?
The phone number to our office is 347-590-2874. That's 347-590-2874.
Now, before I do let you go, I want to ask you this question now, because we know that the state budget is, being dealt with, and a lot of cuts have, occurred with the state budget. Are you optimistic that when the number comes down for your budget, with the trickle-down effect that seems to be occurring from the state into municipalities, are we confident that New York City is going to be able to not just survive, but be able to thrive, given the fact of this economic downturn?
Darren, that's always the challenge. To be honest with you, we never get our fair share. Not for our public schools, not for just about anything. The monies that we put in New York City, we never get back what is due to us. And this is why we need to encourage our senators, assembly members to fight so fervently for us to continue the fight to be able to get the fundings that really are due to us. And so often we find in our city trying to fill the gap for what the state is not doing. We need to fix schools. We need to have new schools. We have to fill a gap of 54,000 students right now. Our class size are too large, and this is why our students are not performing at the level that they should. And so we need to make some noise and let our governor know that we need to receive what is fair. We want equity. We're not asking for more than what we deserve.
So you're saying equity all across the board will make your day and the Bronxites' days a whole lot better?
Definitely.
All righty. Well, Councilman Fernando Cabrera, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us here on Open. All right, no problem. Well, all righty, we got to take a quick break, but guess what? Coming up after this, we're going to return here on the show. When we return, we're going to learn about health and discrimination and how these two go hand in hand. Stay tuned. We're coming right back in just a few seconds.
Mom, I'm not going to go to college.
What are you saying? You've got to go to college.
Well, they offered me a job and...
Son, college is much more important.
No.
Yes.
No, Mom.
Yes.
Anyways, it's my decision.
Okay, well then decide what degree you're going to get because you will go to college.
Their tomorrow depends on your words today. The Hispanic Scholarship Fund has the information you need to help your kids go to college.
Hands can do incredible things. Now they can even help save a life with hands-only CPR. If you see an adult suddenly collapse, just call 911, then push hard and fast in the center of the chest until help arrives. Learn more at handsonlycpr.org.
How you doing? I just want a regular, no sugar today.
You got it.
Thanks. Hello.
Hi.
Did you eat that whole thing today?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, how you doing?
She's getting big, huh?
Good. Yeah, she is big. Great haircut.
Yeah.
Yeah, looks cute. Come on, let's go. Nice to see you. Thanks a lot.
If only child abuse were this easy to recognize. If you even suspect abuse, call 1-800-4-A-CHILD. All calls are anonymous and confidential. Trust your instincts.
Low-fat cheese sandwiches on whole wheat bread. Chewy and good for you. Snacks high in calcium help build strong bones. And foods rich in fiber are good for your heart. So you have the power to dominate. Can your food do that? Run, throw, think, eat better. Find out more at smallstep.gov.
These things we count on every day started as ideas. Ideas from the minds of African Americans. Support minority education today so we don't miss out on the next big idea tomorrow. The United Negro College Fund. A mind is a terrible thing to waste.
And we're back. Darren Jaime here with you. Well, racial discrimination is a stress on many people's lives. It often affects their personal health through the adaptation of both healthy and unhealthy behaviors. Now, here to share more about her new study on how racial discrimination and health affect each other is Dr. Larissa Burwell, who is also the chair of health sciences at Lehman College. And we thank you, Dr. Burwell, for coming and sharing with us.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. So you took a study and you merge these things together, and it's called the CARDIA study. So what exactly is the CARDIA study?
So the CARDIA study is a longitudinal study that follow people over time. They started in 1985, 86, recruited 5,500 people, half African American, half whites. And they the idea was to determine what were the risk factors for coronary artery risk.
And so coronary artery risk, and then you've got this whole thing about the factors. The one thing that comes in, racial discrimination.
Yes.
So when you talk about racial discrimination and coronary arteries, somebody's going to say, like, that's a far stretch. But you say...
No, it's not. Actually, every time something happens to you, your system reacts to it. And the first thing that gets affected is your heart. Your blood pressure goes up. Mm-hmm. When you get pissed, what's the first thing you feel? all your blood going to your head. So every time you encounter anything like this, that's the first thing that happens. Your heart suffers.
So your heart suffers, and so let's talk about this. You took a study, and so how many people, how many groups did you use to get this study going?
Okay, the original study started with 5,500, but I used data from year 20, basically. So by that time, I had 3,000 individuals. 1,200 African American, 1,300 whites.
Okay. Now, with this study, because we haven't really given the full disclosure, what were your findings?
Oh, my findings were very interesting. If you experience discrimination, regardless of whether you are white or black, you are more likely to smoke. You are more likely to exercise also, because as you studied at the beginning, you usually cope, and one of the coping mechanisms is taken behavior, and that can be either healthy or unhealthy. So the people that actually reported discrimination are more likely to smoke and be physically active.
Okay. And so you were able to assess this racial discrimination through your study?
Yes. The way that we did is that we asked people whether they had ever feel discriminated or prevented for doing something in seven domains: a school, a job, getting a job, getting housing, getting medical care, industry, by the police and court, and we added all those domains. So we assess this information at the year 7 and at the year 15 of the study, and we sort of combine that information to determine how prevalent and how persistent was this experience.
And so how prevalent and how persistent is it?
Well, for African American was 89%, and for white was 40%. So it's not a minimal issue.
So it's a very big issue, particularly in the
African American community, absolutely.
What about Latinos? Any study in there?
It is coming along. It's not as much as for African American, but it's coming along, and it's high too. It's around 60-65%. Because the whole idea is in the color, and as you know, a lot of the Latino have a strong African ancestry, especially Dominicans and Puerto Rican. So they are also getting their share of discrimination.
Was were your findings surprising to you?
Well, no, they are not surprising. I had done similar study in the past, and in which I even found that illegal substance abuse is common in people that experience discrimination: cocaine, heroin, marijuana. But what was surprising was the fact that racial segregation didn't mitigate the effect of discrimination on those health behavior.
So when you talk about racial segregation, explain a little bit further.
So we found that the people that live in segregated neighborhoods are less likely to report discrimination if they are African American. The opposite was true for white. So we were under the impression that if you live in a segregated community and you are an African American, you will be less likely to have an association with smoking, alcohol, or physical activity, just because the protective effect of being in that environment. But it didn't happen. So if you are discriminated, whether you live in a segregated or not, you still are going to smoke and be more physically active, which for physical activity is a good thing, but for smoking is not, especially talking about the high negative effect of smoking and health.
Right, we're talking about kick butts in a few minutes too. But many people are out there actually doing this. Your studies, anybody did a similar study to this? Is this an exclusive study here?
I had done this twice, looking at different outcome and over time, different time, and we have concluded the same thing. Now, the piece that was new was the discrimination. That hasn't been done.
Where do you want after you get all this information, you put it together? Where does it go from here?
Ideally, we like to be like what we're doing here. We like people to be aware of this thing, and that not only get into the paper, but that they get into the community. And it will be good that if instead of smoking or getting junk food, people actually focus on exercise. If I feel stressed, rather than have a glass of wine or smoke, I should go on in my machine. And do some exercise. So the idea is that people be aware that there are mechanisms in which you can actually cope with discrimination or with things that you feel is preventing you from doing something.
So basically, most people who have this connection, if you will, to racial discrimination, you find that definitely it's having a serious effect on their health.
Oh, absolutely. As you started, discrimination is an stressor. So you're going to find a way to cope with it. And that can be different ways. Like for older people, a study has reported that they are less likely to take the medicine when they feel discriminated. So it's just a
They
way.
won't take their medicine,
Exactly. This is a way to sort of retract from everything that is going on around them. So it has a negative impact. So the question is, how do we find a way to mitigate that negative impact? And it seems like physical activity may be a way. And with this, don't take me wrong and say that discrimination is okay and let's get more into the gym. I don't say that way, but I feel that if we're going to take negative behavior, we should also look at a broad spectrum.
But somebody, a critic out there, will say, that many people do not feel like racial discrimination really plays a part in their life. What would you say to that?
You lie. How can you tell me that when I had repeated a study and I find 89% of African Americans saying that they feel discriminated from doing something? So I will be very skeptical to somebody tell me, no, discrimination is just a feeling, it's a perception, which a lot of people say.
For somebody who wants to find out more about your study, what do they do?
They can just shoot me an email, and I would be more than happy to talk to them.
All righty. Well, her email is at the bottom of the screen. We thank you, Dr. Burrell, for coming to share with us.
Thank you for having me.
And, of course, we got to take another quick break. But guess what? When we return, we'll find out about an effort to make the Bronx smoke-free. Talk about kick butt. Yeah. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Separate raw meats from other foods by using different cutting boards. 3,000 Americans will die from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Today is National Kick Butts Day.
Across my borough,
And right here in my district, Big Tobacco is targeting youth to become smokers.
I don't want to be one of them.
I want to live tobacco free and not see these ads in my neighborhood.
I pledge to not smoke
And will encourage my peers to not smoke.
And if they do, kick butts by quitting.
New York City has been a proud leader in tobacco control.
On Kick Butts Day and every other day,
I am committed to protecting all of our youth
against the aggressive marketing tactics
so that our young people can grow up in
a healthy community.
A healthy community.
We want you to stay young and healthy just as you are right now.
We want you healthy and healthy living in Brooklyn.
Every youth and every New Yorker
Deserve the resources they need
to kick butts.
Hey Manhattan, including you Bronx, let's kick butts today.
And it's time for all of us to get together in Queens. Let's go out there and let's kick some butt. Bronx, kick butts today.
Manhattan, kick butts today.
Let's kick butts today.
Manhattan, kick butts today. Brooklyn, kick butts. The Bronx kicks butts today.
Well, in case you haven't found out, we're telling you now. Today is National Kick Butts Day, a day dedicated to empowering youth to stand out and speak up against large tobacco companies. And the Coalition for a Smoke-Free City has come together with youth and community leaders to make their voices heard. Joining us today is Dan Ferris, Borough Manager of Bronx Smoke-Free Partnership, and Emma Rogers, who's the Program Coordinator. We welcome you.
It's actually David Lehman, yes.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Dan's one of my colleagues.
All righty, well, good to have you. I'm sorry.
Thank
Dan.
you so much. That's quite all right.
As today is the day,
Today
everybody's all across the city talking about kick butts, and you got to be pleased because it's catching fire.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're so proud to be on today, actually on Kick Butts Day. And Kick Butts Day started with the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, so there's always been a focus on youth. But it was a day for smokers who want to quit, to quit. And throughout the Bronx today, 10 locations, people can go and get cessation services if they'd like them get nicotine replacement therapy. But it's the focus has become on youth. So youth can stand up to big tobacco and say, no, I don't want to be the next generation of tobacco addicts. So it's become a great combination day. So,
Emma, give me a little bit about how youth have actually taken part in this event.
Sure. Well, again, I work for Bronx Health Reach, which is part of the Partnership for a Healthier New York City. And we work with David Lehman, again, at the Bronx Smoke-Free Partnership to educate Bronx residents about the dangers of smoking and help them quit. So David and his team put together this amazing film, highlighting youth and the important role that they play in the community to reduce smoking.
So, David, when we look around the borough of the Bronx, let's explain to people what people are going to see today, because some people probably walk around and find some information out there. What are people going to see?
Well, the cessation services that are being offered are one of the big pieces of this, but the main thing we're promoting is giving youth a voice to say no to big tobacco. And one of the ways that we did this here in the Bronx so effectively, and we plan to do others of these, we took elected officials and groups of youth around the borough to show them what our youth see every day as they walk to and from school. And that's what's so exciting about the mayor's bill that he proposed last week. The city council has already been introduced. When you walk around the borough, I can't show you a picture of it, unfortunately. When you walk around the borough on the outside of stores and the inside of stores, what you see is tobacco marketing to our youth. And you say, well, why is this important? Well, it's very important because youth remember this marketing. Us as adults don't notice those power walls behind the registers where tobacco products are sold. Youth do. We don't notice the colorful ads on the windows. Youth do. They're intrigued to start smoking. And I mean, a personal story, I grew up in a time when over 50% of people smoked. I remember every single tobacco jingle. Kids are really attuned to these messages, to the colorful messages. So we're trying to keep our youth from seeing these ads so that they aren't attracted to smoke more. So we're trying to draw attention to.
And then I want to go over some of these facts here, but particularly in the borough of the Bronx. 16.2% of Bronx residents, approximately 151,000, actually smoke, are dedicated smokers. 3,000 high school students living in the Bronx currently smoke cigarettes, and they say 1/3 will probably die prematurely as a direct result of smoking. And approximately 500,000 New York adults and children are exposed to secondhand smoke at home. These numbers are not light. They're very heavy.
Absolutely.
Right. Definitely. I mean, we've made some great progress in New York City and the Bronx specifically, but we have a lot of work to do, as those numbers indicate. A lot of youth still smoke. A lot of adults are still smoking. There's no safe level of secondhand smoke exposure. So we really just have a lot of work to do to make sure we create a smoke-free Bronx.
I'll ask the question, do you feel it's like an uphill battle, given the fact that when you look around New York City, you've got the mayor who's trying to make sure that we, drink nothing over 16 ounces and the whole sugar thing, and you've got these other quality of life issues that are really seeing a lot of resistance from people saying you're infringing on my rights. Do you feel as though the work that you're doing is very an extreme uphill battle?
Our organization, the Bronx Bronx Health Reach and the Bronx Smoke-Free Partnership work on a number of issues. But again, at Bronx Health Reach, we work on healthy eating, active living, alcohol, as well as tobacco. I think we are very, very proud of the work that's been done in New York City around tobacco. Again, the rates of smoking have dramatically decreased, but there's still such a need, and tobacco is still the #1 cause of preventable death in New York City. So again, I think we have a lot of work to be done, but there are things that we've done in the past that we can look back on and be proud of, and build upon those efforts to create a smoke-free Bronx.
How do people get on the train, if you will, and become a part of this?
Well, I hope you guys are going to put up our website.
You already got it. We already got it.
All right, yes.
We're ahead of the game here.
Just contact us and we will get you involved in any and every way you want to. There's just so much work to still be done in the Bronx. But I've got to draw attention to something that's happening next week, which when you say, is it an uphill battle? Talk about an uphill battle. 10 years ago, the Smoke-Free Workplace law was passed by City Council, and it captured bars and restaurants for the first time. We were the first major city that did that. And boy, talk about resistance and an uphill battle. But now, is there anybody that would say, I love going in bars and restaurants more now because people can't smoke there? So we're celebrating that 10th anniversary next week. And smoke-free parks and beaches have become part of how we live in the Bronx. So we're proud of the things we've done, and we just want to keep protecting people from secondhand smoke and creating more smoke-free places where people live, work, learn, and play.
Yes, and Bronx Health Reach is part of a citywide effort, as I mentioned, the Partnership for a Healthier New York City. And we are really leading efforts across the city with David and his team and others to expand our work throughout the borough and across the city to educate more residents and youth about the dangers of smoking. And there are a number of ways that people can get involved. One way is to attend our coalition meeting, which we're actually having on Friday from 9:30 to 12 at Walker Memorial Baptist Church. Our coalition is a group of over 70 community partners that includes faith-based institutions, healthcare providers, social services, schools, you name it. Really an amazing, strong coalition where community members and organizations can get involved in these efforts. Also, again, we do a number of events and activities. So again, check out our website and Facebook and Twitter. And we would love for more people to get involved in the borough.
The one thing that we took out of that piece is how much youth are actually affected by this. And given the fact that some people don't even recognize how much these tobacco companies really are not targeting adults, but they really spend a lot of time targeting youth.
Yep. And that's what we're trying to get at with this Kick Butts Day and with the mayor's proposed bill is big tobacco. Over 400,000 people die every year from tobacco use, so they've got to replace them somewhere. Where are they going to get them? They're going to get them from our youth. The average youth starts smoking before they're age 18, so they know they got to target them early and get them addicted to tobacco. So, what we're trying to do is just educate youth, obviously get youth advocates behind us, but also to reduce the exposure. The tobacco industry spends $1 million a day marketing to our youth, and we're trying to counter that.
$1 million a day, that's hard to even
right here in New York, yeah.
Right here in New York.
Right here in New York, yeah.
Hard to fathom. Talk about New York. You do have the support of the Bronx Borough President, Ruben Diaz Jr., and he's been working with you. Talk about the partnership with the Borough President's office.
Well, he was our partner from day one. We actually launched our partnership in 2010 on the steps of Borough Hall with the Borough President, and he has been with us the whole time. He and Senator Gustavo Rivera have formed Bronx Can, which again, works closely with Emma's program because not only tobacco control, but it's also nutrition, physical activity. It's a broader health initiative, so he's just been a remarkable partner.
Yeah, and both of our organizations will be participating in the Health Summit on April 6th. So we really hope that people will come out, learn about not only the dangers of tobacco use and a number of our other programs, as well as I'll be leading an initiative around active living and how we can actually improve the built environment in the community to promote healthier lifestyles. So.
Yeah, it's a lot of things that we really have to get under control here in our borough. But this is one thing that if we can really get under control, we could probably have a much healthier borough, given the fact that we talk about all these other things that are flowing through our neighborhood. So, David, Emma, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us, and best wishes. Once again, if you want to get their contact information, you see it at the bottom of the screen, and it's been at the bottom of the screen throughout the course of the segment. And we encourage you to come on out and be an advocate and come on out and take part in the events that are taking place that you can help and contribute to a healthier Bronx. Well, we have to take a quick break, but guess what? Coming up when we return, we're going to hear from an organization fighting for the Bronx. And there you see, National Kick Butts Day. The information's right before you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I
That was a
apologize for
pleasure.
taking
Did
you find the flashlight and the batteries?
Yes.
Did you make sure we're not missing anything in the first aid kit?
Yep.
Did you go through the plan with the kids again?
Yes. The more you prepare today, the more you'll be able to reduce the devastating effects of a tornado, an earthquake, a power outage, or any other disaster.
My name's Brandon. I'm 9 years old, being alcoholic.
Hi, Brandon.
I'll start drinking with the older kids. And whatever they do, I'll do.
Kids who drink before age 15 are 5 times more likely to have alcohol problems when they're adults. So start talking before they start drinking.
I know it'll start with alcohol. I'm just not sure how it's gonna end.
Big dreams and good grades aren't enough to get into college. There are actual steps you need to take. Finding someone who can help is the first and most important. For the next steps, go to knowhowtogo.org.
Back here on Open, Darren Jaime here with you. Well, after months of protesting Fresh Direct's move to the Bronx, South Bronx Unite has recently filed a lawsuit arguing that Fresh Direct has not allowed environmental standards or sufficiently given back to the Bronx. Here to share more about their work to protect Bronxites is Michael Johnson from South Bronx United. We welcome you to the show, Michael.
Thank you.
When we talk about this here, you're opposed to Fresh Direct coming in. There are many people who say it's good. There are many people who say it's an economic stimulus to the Bronx, but you say something totally different.
Yeah, well, you know, looking at how this project came about, it came about without any public participation. It was announced as a done deal 2 days before the very first public hearing that was located downtown on William Street in Manhattan at 10 o'clock in the morning. So and none of the information about the project and what it really meant to the community wasn't given or provided to the community from a ground up or from a top down type of perspective. Well, we didn't understand or didn't know at the time that a full environmental impact statement had not been done on that property, on that particular site. They're trying to do a 500,000 square foot facility on a plot of land that's right in the center or at the brink point of where we have like ASVA rates 8 times the national average. So anytime you do a project of that capacity, you have to do an environmental impact statement. One wasn't done. They're relying on one that was done 21 years ago. And what community really expects that to be a model of respect? Nowhere else in New York City would that be allowed. And what we're saying is the impact to the community at large, that it's directly the people who live right there, are not being taken into account when you're talking about bringing 938 diesel truck trips per day. That has to have an effect on our environment, especially with the high ASVA rates, you know, and all the other type of respiratory illnesses that we have. I mean, your show today is about health in our community, you know, and the health of our community is paramount to our children of Mott Haven, Port Morris, Melrose, you know, and also Hunts Point. I mean, we're talking about
a lot
going on there.
And I want to get to that because as a resident, what do you feel like is going on there right now? I mean, how do you feel? Do you feel like it's overcrowded? Do you feel like there's a lot of traffic? What do you feel?
Well, if you come across the Willis Avenue Bridge where it intersects with Bruckner Boulevard, there's an extremely large amount of traffic. The area that has most of the industrial usage is called Harlem River Rail Yard. Okay, right now we have the New York Post and Wall Street Journal printing and distribution facility on that land. We have a FedEx hub. We have a 5,000 ton per day waste transfer station. We have 2 fossil fuel power plants. So we got garbage trucks and diesel trucks running through there like 50 going west. I mean, going across the 3rd Avenue Bridge and throughout our community. So it's that it's overburdened right now with traffic. We're not saying we understand the need for jobs, but we're saying we shouldn't have to take jobs for exchange of our health. You know, if our children are suffering from health illnesses, from asthma-related illnesses, which is 5 times the national average in terms of being admitted in hospitals in our community, it's just that they will miss school. That has poor education, poor employment. It's a cycle of poverty. So we have to think differently about how we create jobs, and giving one company $127 million to come and relocate from Long Island City to our community without doing a thorough environmental impact statement seems disrespectful, at least, and just not due diligence at most.
And March the 1st, you had a statement to the New York Metropolitan Transportation Council.
Yes.
How do you feel your statement was received?
I think, I've done multiple public hearings with city officials, with state government bodies about this process and about this project. And I think a lot of times it goes on deaf ears because they feel like it's been something that's been passed down from above, from the governor, from the mayor, as being something that's been good for the Bronx and good for New York. And I think Fresh Direct leveraged New Jersey off of New York in terms of getting a $127 million tax subsidy package, because they thought, well, New Jersey's going to give them $100 million, and they may relocate their business to New Jersey and take their jobs with them. But their product line and the people they're serving is in Manhattan. In their 10-year history, they never serviced the Bronx. They serviced Riverdale, but they didn't service the entire Bronx. And now, since this whole deal came about, now they want to service the Bronx. But it's not over yet, and we're still fighting it because we think the community should be respected enough to get an environmental impact statement, and then an audit of the actual lease should be taken into account. Because the lease of the land, and we're talking about the Harlem River Yard, was leased 21 years ago for 99 years. And they're trying to say that the environmental impact statement that was done 21 years ago is good in perpetuity for the entire 99 years. What does that make? How does that make sense, first of all? And then the public benefit for public land has to be somewhere involved in that contract, and that was originally sought to be intermodal rail use. That would be the public benefit to reduce truck traffic in the region of New York City, of the New York region, across the bridges, the tunnels, the highways, you know, the reduced cost of maintenance of these highways. But they've not done intermodal rail there. They've only brought in truck-intensive traffic there, and they want to bring in more. And we're saying enough of dumping on our community, enough of not respecting us by giving us an environmental study that would show how the impacts really affect us, and our children's lives are at stake. I mean, if you go to the South, if you go to our community, and most communities in the Bronx, that are circled by the Deegan, the Bruckner, and the Cross Bronx Expressway, is no one does not know someone who doesn't have asthma. So it seems like an epidemic, but where we're handling it is saying, well, we need to employ, we need jobs, so take the truck traffic and the diesel fumes in exchange for jobs. And it doesn't weigh out, especially when, you know, Fresh Direct is not held to living wage requirements, and there's a whole other issue around income.
No, we can take this. We can take this at a bigger conversation a little bit later. But I want to ask this question: give me the rest. You've got a whole lot of people behind you. It's like the Verizon commercial. You do have a whole lot of people behind you who are saying enough is enough. Talk about the movement of community residents and what's being done.
Well, South Bronx Unite is actually a coalition of more than 30 organizations that are doing work around environmental justice, social justice, or have a real stake in the community and feel that some of our basic asks in terms of the platform of South Bronx Unite should be respected, and so they sign onto the platform. We have a boycott of more than 800 signatures on our boycott petition. We've had more than 23 or 24,000 visitors to our site. The people in our community, when we've had our outreach in our community and stand on the street corner and walk and talk to people in public housing, which a great deal of this traffic will be going by, understand that here it is, promises of jobs, but we know what we will receive. We've always received promises. But what we get in exchange of those promises have always seemingly fell short of the goals that were promised initially. You know, for instance, Yankee Stadium, Gateway Mall, all these different projects that said, well, we're going to give you 5,000 jobs, or we're going to provide, you know, great jobs for people in the community, and it provides some, but it doesn't meet those standards. But we're giving up a lot in exchange, you know, for those promises.
You talk about the word economic injustice, but you want to talk about environmental injustice. How much does this mean to you?
It means a great deal to me. My daughter, my family, we live there. I see people who in the community don't really understand why they're sick. I've seen several friends die of respiratory illnesses, from lung cancer to leukemia to all type of things that don't happen, or illnesses that don't happen in other places. So it seems like someone has to stand up and speak for the voiceless, and that's what our job is to make sure that our community is respected and the children have someone who advocates for their future.
All right. Well, Michael Johnson, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us here. We'll continue to update this story and follow it here on Open. Michael Johnson.
Thank you.
All righty. Well, that's about all with the time we have today. But before we close the show, I would like to announce that on Thursday, March 21st, the Friends of Pelham Bay will be hosting their 4th annual spring fundraiser. Can you believe it's actually spring already? I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. Well, the money to purchase outdoor exercise equipment, that's what that will benefit. And the event will take place from 6 to 8 at the Pelham Split Rock Golf Clubhouse on 890 Shore Road. So make sure you come on out and be a part of that. It's been a pleasure coming into your homes. We'd like to thank our guests for joining us, and especially you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, you can tune in for the recablecast of Open tonight at 10 p.m., or you can watch anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. And from all of us here at the set of Open, I'm Darren Jaime, encouraging you to have a great week. Don't forget, keep your heart, your mind, and most of all, this channel wide open. Take care.
Today is National Kick Butts Day.
across my borough,
And right here in my district,
Big Tobacco is targeting youth to become smokers.
I